Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to the Zoom meeting. Today we're gonna work on different topics, and Dr. Anwar and Hasim will be presenting. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nader. Hi, everyone. My name is Amal Amin. I'm the Grey Team leader. Today, I'm going to be hosting the meeting on behalf of the Grey Team. So let me share my screen to show you the agenda for today. So our agenda for today include sleep issues in older adults presented by Drs. Marwa and Dr. Fatima. And we have the topic of using Zotero for reference management presented by Dr. Hajer. And the third topic should be presented by Dr. Abdul Wahab Ahmed, which is the using Google Sheets and extensions for analysis, but unfortunately, he was not able to present today. The fourth topic is how to prepare for a webinar presented by Dr. Sahar. So we're going to start with our first topic, which is sleep issues in older adults. And we're going to start with Dr. Marwa. Please go ahead, Dr. Marwa, if you are ready. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm Dr. Marwa, one of the Grey Team members. So I hope all of you can hear me and see me well. Okay. Is my voice clear, guys? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Amazing. So I will just, sorry, 1 second, just to open my screen, then we will start in a minute. Okay. You can see my screen, I guess.
Yes, we can.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So without further ado, as basically we mentioned earlier that my topic for today, it's basically sleep disorder at elderly. The way how I arranged this topic, of course, by arranging with Dr. Fatima, that I will just cover, I will give like hint about what's the main illnesses basically we can face, especially in elder people, what's the main causes and the treatment in a brief. Most of this knowledge, I believe we know already, just it will be like a quick review, you know, just to the main knowledge. Then after that, we will dig deep with Dr. Fatima regarding the physiology and why that happening basically, especially in elder people, and what's the pathophysiology behind it, and what tool we may use it to assess those kind of, like special population, the elderly and geriatric in general. So, of course, I have no conflict of interest to disclose. And those, as I mentioned, this is, I will try by the end of this presentation to cover all these elements, just to give idea about it. What's the common sleep disorder, especially in the elderly? What was the causes? What's the treatment and proposal solutions? Try also to give evidence-based practice, some examples regarding this topic. Starting off with sleep, all of us know that sleep, it's really important. I mean, for all of us, I'm kind of person, I really love sleeping for like 12 hours daily when I have a chance. So older adult, unfortunately, once we get older in age, our sleep time will somehow be reduced. So if basically like once we are young, like we are get used to 8 hours, those hours will be reduced while we get older. And there is a lot of reasons behind it. Some of those elements it's considered normal, but other of it considering abnormal. And we may connect it to the environmental or even actually some sort of illnesses. So just to, you know, like know the normal from the abnormal situation and be ready to deal with it when someone seeks your advice. Sleep deprivation, regard what age we are talking about it, all of us know that it's caused basically cognitive decline, decrease the functional mood disturbance, and interestingly enough, it also increases risk of stroke and heart disease. That patient, you can even see like someone, he had lack of sleep, for instance, in your work, next day, like after night shift, you can see how you are cranky, your mood is changed, you're ready to fight with everyone, and you lack like your concentration actually is dropped, and all that related to the hormonal and chemicals in our brains and how, you know, like the things functional. So yeah, those the elements basically those kind of risk associated with the sleep deprivation. So imagine those risk in someone, he's already fragile, he's already old in certain age, so you can imagine like how that will hit and affect those kind of population, right? So this is the common sleep problem in the elderly. We cover today, of course, insomnia, the famous and the most common, sleep apnea with type of sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, and periodic limb movement disorders, and REM sleep behavior disorder. We will try to mention at least the main point for each one of these elements. There's a lot of illnesses related to sleep, especially in elderly, but I just try to find what's the most common. At least by the end of this presentation, we will have idea about it, this topic. Of course, you're welcome to ask questions. You are welcome to text me if you want me to share any kind of resources, or we can even like have open discussion at the end of this presentation if there is time, because it's really interesting topic. All right. So in general, if I ask anyone about it, what's the causes of sleep problem in elderly? I'm sure most of you will mention like it's environmental related, it's lifestyle factors, especially in elderly, could be age related changes, as we mentioned, in the body and the chemicals and the hormones and the brain structure itself, with medical condition, even medication. Again, elderly, they are a special population, like all the elements related to them, even the diseases related to them is different. Those kind of population with they're fragile by nature, even with minor element, it can hit and affect them badly. So always we needed to pay attention to these elements for any patient in certain age and complain from lack of sleep, or we notice a change in the attitude or change in the mood, and somehow we felt like he may had one of those sleep disorders we will mention now. Starting by insomnia. When we try to define insomnia, there is a lot of different, like a lot of basically definition depending on the source you are studying from. But the one I found, it's really interesting when they mentioned that it's lack of falling asleep, or you may sleep, but your sleep will be interrupted and you will be waking up every now and then. And that's the definition of insomnia. So you have normal pattern of sleep before, that pattern for certain reason, it will be disturbed. So that's the definition of insomnia. It's very common in elderly. Interesting enough, in the last research I found, they mentioned 40% of elderly people, they had actually insomnia at certain age. And you can imagine how that will affect them. You will see the fatigability, the daytime sleepiness, the cognitive impairment in their cases. They will be delirious, there will be instability, high risk of fall, especially in old geriatric patients, increased risk of depression, and we know how all these serious actually in this type of patient. If we mention causes, most of those type of sleep deprivation or sleep disorders have almost the same causes. Either it will be environmental related or lifestyle kind of factors. For instance, someone like he get used to caffeine, or not, like in Western countries, the alcohol, over nicotine use, those kind of stuff will affect actually the sleep pattern somehow. And also the medication. If someone he start having a new medication, for instance, NSAID. Interestingly, I found that NSAID actually can cause a sleep deprivation. Someone had depression and anxiety, beta blockers, diuretic, or steroids, all these kind of medication at some population may be the main element that cause the insomnia and the change the sleep cycle in those human beings and cause the insomnia of them. Some of them will be, as we mentioned, it's age related. So circadian rhythm of those patients and the sleep wake cycle will be a little bit disturbed. Dr. Fatima will explain that in details. All right, so now we will come to how you will treat those kind of patient. Always education, which is, you can even mention it in different words as a word as CBT. Cognitive behavior therapy in all those kind of sleep disorders, it's the main element. Try to educate your patient or the family or the caregiver, the one who take care of this human being, of this patient. Avoid caffeine, avoid alcohol, also sleep hygiene. Try always to control the light, try always to control the, basically provide relaxing bedtime routine. In some cases, we may even provide melatonin, and we use that a lot in my practice. Actually, we use it with certain of patients, especially those patients will end up, for instance, intensive care unit, then you will discharge them, or in the medical ward or being admitted, then you will try to discharge them. Those patients, they will have severe depression after that, and they will have lack of sleep because all the circadian rhythm and all the stress they are being through affect their sleep cycle. So one of the options is describe melatonin or even sleeping pills, even though we keep sleeping pills as the last options. So you can use one of these step by step and stepwise as a treatment until you reach the goal with your patient, basically. Right. Second one is the sleep apnea, which is the second, we mentioned just as a recap, insomnia with 40% of older adults, and we said 40% they have that. Then after that, we will come with 20% of older adult or elderly complaining of sleep apnea. We know that sleep apnea means being apneic, or there is pauses in the breathing during sleep, right? So basically, there is types of the sleep apnea. There is central, there is peripheral, and there are different causes. Right. So the issue with the sleep apnea per se, most of the time the patient himself will not note that he had those symptoms. He will be sleeping, pausing, then after that wake up, then sleep again. So usually the partners, the one he's with that person, he will notice that. And the second day, that person, he will note that he had fatigability. He is not functional. He basically taken a lot of naps. He's a cranky. There's daytime sleepiness. So as I mentioned, like a 20% is a big deal actually, in like as a number of how much this disorder is common. As a causes, it will be also the same. Here, just we will add something which is basically if patient who was obese or comorbid obese with short neck, stroke, heart disorders, heart disease, sorry. If patient been on some medication like tranquilizers or sedative, those kind of patients considering the higher risk because all these elements affect the airway itself. So it will make it basically more risky to have those pauses or narrowing in the airway. So that patient breathing during sleep will be affected, and that's what will cause the pausing in the sleep, or what we call the sleep apnea. Right. As we mentioned, the classification, there's a lot of classification I found, but the most common and the easiest one for us, either obstructive or central sleep apnea, right? From the name, if we mention central, that means there is signal issues in the brain itself. So the coordination between our brain and between the muscles of the breathing, there is a lack of it, or there is discrepancy. For, you know, like related to a lot of reasons. One of those reasons using tranquilizers, as we mentioned. The other one is the obstructive sleep apnea. Here it's more anatomical related, the comorbid obesity, the diabetic patient. The patient already had, if you see like myelopathy for that patient, grade 1 or 2, so he had big tongue or had large tonsil. So those anatomical issues in that patient will increase him or her risk to have sleep apnea obstructive type at some point. Sleep apnea, one of the reasons that someone he may had it, as we mentioned, heart disease, stroke, and funny enough that sleep apnea per se, it may increase the risk of a stroke, heart disease, and all the heart problem. One of them, pulmonary hypertension, and of course, increase the risk of death overall. This is one of the study I found it interesting. It's published around 2019, link between obstructive sleep apnea and the risk of stroke, especially in elderly patients. The result of this study, after they study almost 3,000 patients and follow up of them for almost 6 years, they found that 224 of those participants, they had a stroke. And they mentioned that the risk of a stroke, it's 2.4 times higher in older adults with severe obstructive sleep apnea than someone old but mild obstructive sleep apnea. And also risk of stroke was 1.5 times higher in older adults with moderate and compared with mild. They tried to link how much like it's serious having obstructive sleep apnea, severe or moderate, and what's the percentage that you may have, or what's the risk you may had stroke in long run. So 2.4, if the patient had severe obstructive sleep apnea, his risk is higher than normal population. 1.5 if moderate obstructive sleep apnea, and compared with mild population. Also, they mentioned that the risk of stroke will be higher with obstructive sleep apnea with another comorbidity, even mild obstructive sleep apnea, but he is diabetic, hypertensive, so the risk will be significantly higher and double than the normal population. So I believe that's something like we really need to keep in mind when educate our patient about it, this illness. Right. Here, just another study, just to keep it entertained for all of us, sleep disorder in the elderly in general. They mentioned the diagnosis and management. Just they try basically to give clear numbers. This paper is published in 2017. And they mentioned that as it's the same numbers almost, that the elderly, that the one more basically risky, or they're the one more exposed to have all types of the sleep disorders with percentage roughly 20 to 40%, which is almost 4 or 10. So every 4 or 5 from out of 10 of elderly, they will have one of sleep disorders we mentioned. That's why in this study, they try basically to highlight about it. What's the sign and symptom? You will look for it to diagnose that patient that he may have some sort of sleep disorder, because we know that this population, some of them cannot communicate and they have issues, demented and all these kind of illnesses. So as a caregiver, you need, or as a physician, basically, you always needed to look for the sign and symptoms, so you will catch the issue early and try to solve it before the complication, and try to improve, of course, the quality of life of the older adult. Right. So number 3, restless leg syndrome. I think we heard this, like we heard about it, restless leg syndrome somehow in the books or in the exams before. Restless leg syndrome, it's common in all types of, like different types of ages, but interestingly, the risk increasing in adults and elderly, to be specific. The issue with that it's abnormal movement or urge to move the legs, right? And that's mainly at the night. And it make it difficult to sleep. Imagine like you are going to your bed and you just feel like you needed to move your legs all the time. That sensation will cause lack of sleep and of course cause a sleep disturbance. As cause related, we will mention like there is a lot of causes of drugs related and so on. So, but as we mentioned, main symptom, I think it's simple and clear. Just someone, he had that urge to move the legs mainly at the end of the day. And he will be like, I don't feel like myself. He will be like not comfy until he have those movement and like moving the legs. And after that, that unpleasant sensation will be relieved. As risk we mentioned, it's common in the elderly, and we have like some certain like medications and certain illnesses associated with. We always link restless leg syndrome with iron deficiency anemia. Somehow we link it to the pregnancy also. CKD patient and gestational disease or any illnesses can cause uremia, will cause restless leg syndrome. Parkinson patient also, they had high risk to have restless leg syndrome. Medication, antihistamine, especially the first generation, and antidepressant medication in general, they had high risk to cause restless leg syndrome because they work on the extrapyramidal tract in our brain. So somehow they will affect the movement center in our brain, and the patient here will have restless leg syndrome. Unfortunately, there is no clear cutoff point of treatment to this like illnesses per se, but there is some options may improve it. Given dopamine agonist and some anticonvulsant to just cut the extrapyramidal and the signals from the brain itself. Try basically to avoid the stimulant like caffeine, the alcohol, try to learning the exercise, control the weight of the patient can help in restless leg syndrome. Again, the same thing, basically controlling the weight as a prevention, exercise, control the caffeine intake and alcohol, and try to keep them like the polypharmacy, which is basically serious issue, especially in the elderly. We need to control it also. Try to always minimize the medication, and you will always find elderly, they have like 3 or 4 medications. Sometimes it's interact with each other. So always try to keep eye on the medication that patient he or she receiving, and from there I think you may control a lot of illnesses, a lot of symptoms, a lot of complaint of this patient. Right. The next one is periodic limb movement in the sleep. It's somehow related to restless leg syndrome, but there is difference in the differences here. It's involuntary muscle contraction, not movement. It's just you feel like vibration and contraction in your legs during sleep. And it's like jerky, twitching, mild movement. Sometimes it's not recognizable. It's more like feeling related. It will wake the person from sleep, and of course, next day he will have the fatigue and all those symptoms. In periodic limb movement in sleep, there was no clear reason why some patients have it and other not, but they said it's more genetic related condition. And also, again, medical condition. If someone, for instance, had Parkinson, the risk to have periodic limb movement and sleep, or had Ingersoll syndrome is higher than general population. Iron deficiency, anemia, CKD, and interstitial disease patient. Those kind of patients, they will have higher risk compared with the other population. Diagnose always with the sleep study and observe the patient, of course, trying to see if there is any involuntary movement. As a cure, unfortunately, there is, even though they mentioned medication, I could not find anything specific. Just they mentioned like lifestyle changes. Maybe they will do like some sort of surgery to the brain to cut the impulse, which is like very extreme. I don't think anyone do it. But rather than that, there is no specific treatment. Right. Going to the last one, which is the REM sleep, basically behavior disorder. REM sleep behavior disorder, as we know that probably you heard of someone, he will be sleeping and next thing you know, he basically in front of the fridge or something, he's eating while he's sleeping, or he's sleeping and just moving around the house or even leave. I mean, definitely you know someone he had that. So this is a REM sleep behavior disorder, walking and acting out during a dream. Some of them jumping out of the bed or just shouting while asleep, some of them moving actually, some of them even communicating with you while you are sleeping. So there's the stages of these issues. As I mentioned, the symptoms: yelling, talking, laughing while sleeping. And the issue with that during their sleep, they will be physically active most of the time, like doing actions. So next day, first of all, they may be exposed to injuries because their brain are not awake 100%. So all risk of injuries is there. And next day, they have risk of fatigue, you know, like the depression, lack of sleep symptoms, all of it will be there. As a causes, they mention it's genetic, and that's I believe it makes sense. If there is one of the family had it, definitely you will find some relative in the same family, they have the same issue. Maybe it's CNS and the brainstem related medication, less likely, but could be the dopamine medication, tranquilizer, those kind of medication can affect. How REM sleep behavior disorder diagnosed? Again, the tool for all the sleep disorder is sleep study. Observe your patient while they're asleep and try to see what kind of behavior, what kind of movement they had. From there, you may, of course, try to help them by lifestyle changes, by medication, and try to, of course, you know, help your patient as much as you can. I made it really simple, just to, you know, like not get bored, guys. So any question welcomes, any comment. Hopefully you did not sleep, all of you. Yeah. Anyone want to give any comment, guys? Give feedback.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marwa. That was a great and entertaining presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Marwa before we proceed to the next section?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
So the next presenter is Dr. Fatima. She's going to complete the second portion of this presentation.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a great day. I'm trying to share my screen. Sorry. I'm having difficulty sharing my screen. If could Dr. Amal help me and share my file?
Yeah, yes, sure.
So hello, everyone. Let's start my video. Okay. So hello, everyone. My name is Fatima. I will move along with our today's topic, which is impaired sleep in the older adult. So by today's session, move along, we will, at the end of this session, you will be able to determine the likely etiology of sleep impairment in the geriatric population, and hopefully you will be able to evaluate sleep in the older adults. Yes. As Dr. Marwa explained beautifully, sleep-related complaints are very common among older adults, but they are often very difficult to distinguish whether they are a consequence of normal aging, or are they due to a primary sleep disorder or another medical illness. Yes. Because as we are getting older, we have what we call the normal effects of aging on sleep. So sleep-related changes can be, as we said, a normal consequence of aging. Yes. We have in this table some of the effect that aging has on our sleep. As we see, as we're getting older, we have increase in what we call nocturnal awakening, which are the times at night, the time that we wake up at night, the number of times that we wake up at night. Due to that, we also have excessive daytime napping, and the time that we usually take to fall asleep during the day gets longer, and we also have increased in snoring. On the other hand, we have decreased in the total sleep time, and we also have decreased sleep efficiency. The ratio of time asleep to time in bed, it decreases, and it's also due to likely to nocturnal awakening, which is waking up several times at night. We also find that the time we spend in REM sleep is shorter, and the time also we spend in slow wave sleep gets decreased. In comparison to the younger adult, who usually spend about 20% of sleep time in slow wave sleep, this percentage gets down to 10% by the time we hit 70. Also, the daytime sleep latency, which is the time we take to fall asleep during the day, gets shorter. Other things that can happen is that we feel sleepy earlier in the evening and wake up earlier in the morning. Yes. So the overall effect is that we go to sleep and get up earlier, which we call it advanced phase syndrome, or we complain of difficulty maintaining sleep, which is due to what we call nocturnal awakening, increased in nocturnal awakenings. Yes. The lack of a fixed schedule for the older adult, from example, retirement, can affect sleep hygiene and may even lead to problems with the delayed sleep phase disorder. That is, they become night owls. They spend most of the night awake. Yes. So to sum up, what happens is that with age, we have increased daytime sleepiness, we have difficulty maintaining wakefulness, and we have a propensity for daytime napping. Okay, so we have this case vignette. I will give you guys about 1 minute, 1 minute and a half to read it carefully, and then we will use the chat box to submit your answers. Okay, start. Okay. Moving on to the answers. So which of the following is the most likely best step to start with? Use the chat box, please, everyone. Okay, so everyone is getting it right. We will be using the best next step is basically doing a 2-week sleep diary. Moving next, we will find out why for those who might not know the answer. When evaluating sleep in older adults, we determine whether the patient's symptoms are consistent with the following: normal aging, a primary sleep condition, or other issues, like we said. So moving forward, we should start by, of course, taking history and examination, thorough history and examination to elucidate the complaint and also to inquire about our patient habits. Okay. So we should question our patient and their bed partner, if available, regarding their typical habits. At minimum, this should include their usual bedtime, how long it takes usually to fall asleep, number of nocturnal awakenings, the typical wake time and out of bed time in the morning, if they are snoring, and we should inquire about daytime sleepiness. Next. So this table, I'll leave it for you guys here. I have the key questions that we should be asking our tired and sleepy patients during history taking. And it's basically recap all of what we said, all of the questions that we should be asking our patients. How do they feel sleepy during the day? Do they take naps? Do they struggle to stay awake during the day? And I'll leave it here. I think it will be useful during practice for you guys to use in evaluating your tired patient. Next. So we also have a sleep log. A sleep log is basically the sleep diary. You all answered correctly. And in the next slide, we will showcase what the usual sleep log should look like. And finally, we should also have an inquiry about medications, caffeine and alcohol intake, which is something Dr. Marwa talked about. And of course, about medical consumptions, because sleepiness could be a side effect of various medications. Next. So this is what the sleep diary should look like. So basically, you give it to your patient, and it comes with instructions on how the patient should fill it. And after that, this is basically the first step in evaluating our elderly patient if he's complaining of difficulty sleeping. Yes, next. Also, we should be careful about distinguishing. Is our patient having excessive daytime napping, which is basically falling asleep in a chair in the late evening, or is he having excessive daytime sleepiness, which is not normal? So next, we will know what is excessive daytime sleepiness. Basically, it is the inability to maintain wakefulness and alertness during the major waking episodes of the day, with the sleep occurring unintentionally or at inappropriate times, almost daily for at least three months. Example, falling asleep while talking with someone in the theater, getting dressed, eating a meal, going to the bathroom. So if basically excessive daytime napping reached to this dysfunctional level, this is what we call excessive daytime sleeping. And we should be careful to distinguish it from what the normal effect of aging can have on our sleep routine. Yes. So although it is not validated in older adults, we have what we call the Epworth Sleepiness Scale, which is a calculator you use to make this distinction. A score above 10 suggests the primary sleep pathology rather than normal aging effect on sleep. Next. So moving on with testing. Mild symptoms or symptoms consistent with normal aging do not warrant sleep testing. And we should basically counsel our patient and monitor them for progress, counsel them about sleep hygiene and monitor them for progress. Yes? Yeah, next. When we have symptoms that are disproportionate with normal aging or consistent with a sleep disorder, if our patient is complaining of out of proportion symptoms that are affecting his daily activity or her daily activity or cognitive functioning, or if the symptoms, or if we are having symptoms and signs of a primary sleep disorder, then we should perform diagnostic testing for coexisting sleep disorder that might require treatment. Yes? So for example, we generally order sleep testing in patients who report getting a reasonable amount of sleep, probably 7 hours or more, but have trouble staying awake and need to nap during the day. Patients with what we call excessive daytime sleepiness. Yes. So given the number of medical problems that can cause sleepiness or sleep disruption, we perform some basic lab tests, including complete blood count, routine chemistries, and thyroid function tests as a part of our evaluation. Yes. If not revealing, we generally perform a sleep study in home or in laboratory test. Yes. The threshold to inquire about sleep should be particularly low in those with risk factor for sleep disorders. These are patients with, next, heart failure, patients who have a stroke, and which Dr. Marwa talked about extensively, and those who suffered from a recent physiological traumatic event, patients who have dementia, depression, or anxiety, and also Parkinson's disease, anemia, and renal failure. Yes. So patients with a history of a stroke or TIA should be evaluated for any signs of sleep disordered breathing with a low threshold for sleep testing, as the prevalence is very high in this population. Dr. Marwa showed us a beautiful study that addressed this issue. And so next. In these patients, in-lab attended sleep testing is preferred since home testing is not likely to be adequate. And sleep apnea, we find it is both a risk factor for having a stroke, as well as very highly prevalent in patients who have a stroke. Yes. Finally, patients with early dementia should be evaluated for an underlying sleep disorder and have a very low threshold to perform apnea testing in those with any symptoms suggestive of a sleep disorder. The rationale for this is that sleep symptoms can be very difficult to assess in this population, and evidence suggests improvement or delayed decline when sleep apnea is treated. Next, do anyone have any question? A comment or any note? Okay, I will leave you with the references, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fatma. That was a great presentation. Anyone has any question for Dr. Fatma before we move on? Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Marwa and Dr. Fatima, for this great presentation. Our next topic is using Zotero for reference management, presented by Dr. Hajer. Please, Dr. Hajer, share your screen if you are ready.
Thank you, Dr. Amal. Hello, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Today I'm going to present Zotero reference management software. Okay, first, I would like to define what is reference management software. It is an application allow you to collect and organize and cite material in your work and provide a useful way to keep track of your reading. It is important because it helps researchers find relevant literature and allow them to store papers and their bibliographic metadata in a personal database for later retrieval. It also allows researchers to insert citation and reference in a chosen citation style when writing a text. We have different types of reference management software, like EndNote, Mendeley, Zotero. The most popular one, those are the most popular one. I believe some of you heard about EndNote or maybe used it. Zotero does the same task, but the different thing is Zotero is free. But the EndNote you have to pay and you have to keep paying. Otherwise, you will lose your data. So Zotero is a the free open source software that runs in your browser. It is a research tool that can collect, organize research, and share reference in a variety of ways. It is designed to manage your reference and citation and bibliographic reference. A user create their own personal database sources while they browse online. So it collects, manage, and cite your research. Okay, Zotero lets you co-write a paper with a college, distribute material to students, or build a collaborative bibliography. You can share a Zotero library with many people you like. For example, in organization, or if you are in a class or a research group at no cost. All of them you can share it together and do your research job together. Okay. In this session, we will discuss how to install Zotero and Zotero connector, how to create a Zotero account, and I will show you how Zotero layout looks like, how to use Zotero, like adding reference to Zotero, or how to organize your reference, how to do citation and bibliography using Zotero. First, go to zotero.org, click on it. This Zotero page will pop out, and you can click on the download button here. Okay, here will appear the download Zotero for the first. Hit the download button, then this one will appear. Zotero, you can download the desired version of Zotero. It works for Mac, for Windows. This one for Mac, and you can find for Windows, and it works for Linux too. It is available for all major internet browsers. Once you download the Zotero, it is advisable to download the Zotero connector as well. The Zotero connector will allow you to import and save a citation to your Zotero library. So while you are browsing or are you in the website, you can automatically save whatever you want through the Zotero connector. Here, when you download the Zotero connector, it will appear here. The Zotero connector for Chrome is now installed. So you can now download it. Okay, after you download Zotero, you can create your Zotero account. So Zotero account can optionally synchronize your data through devices. So if you have the computer in work, at home, or the mobile, You can use it wherever you are. Just put the username and the password. How to go there? Hit the Zotero button and go to the preference and put your username and the password. This how Zotero look in your taskbar. So when you click here on Zotero, you will find the main page of Zotero. It has 3 columns. This is the first one, or the left-sided column, and the middle column, and the right-handed column. This is my this picture from my Zotero. It is empty because this is the first time I downloaded. I will show you later. Okay, so the left-hand column have all the reference. In the left column, we will find all the reference contained within my library. You can also create folders. In the library, you can create folders. Those folders, we call them collections. In the middle column, which is the main column, we find the reference here, and we restore them here. The right-hand column, you can check and edit individual reference. Like one reference here, you can edit and check them here in the right column. It contains all information needed to produce citation and additional information. Yes, this is the same collection. This is the collection. My library contains the collection or folders. And this is the reference. This is the main one. And we have here in the right column the detailed record for each reference. Okay, going back, as I told you, this one is the reference. So how I add reference to this part? There are 3 ways that you can add reference to your Zotero account. You can add it manually, or we can add it with something called identifier, or we can use Zotero connector. Let me show you that manually how to add the reference. When you in the main page of or in the layout, you will see in the right column and in the middle column, we are in the middle column, we will see in the top here, you will see new item. And when you click on the new item, they will give you the options of the source you want to use. Is it a book or a book section or document, a journal article, magazine article, newspaper? So you choose whatever you want, or whatever you want to use, like for example, journal article. Then after that, you will go to the right-hand bar here, and you will gonna add the title, the author name manually. Okay, this is the right, more clear than this one. Okay, this YouTube video, I will show you how to add manually, how to add the reference manually. Confirm me if you can hear the sound, please. Are you able to hear?
We can't hear the sound.
I think you should share the voice, the sound.
I can't hear that one.
Yeah, I can't hear.
Then simply select the type of reference you want to add.
Yes, now we can hear.
Okay.
To manually add a reference yourself, click on the New Item button at the top. Then simply select the type of reference you want to add. I'll add a journal article as my example. It's then a case of manually filling out the information to the right. For this example, I'm going to use this review article I found online. And not to bore you, I'll speed up this process. Alright, so now I've entered the key bits of information for my reference, and as you can see, it is now listed in the main window. So that's how you can add references manually. To manually
Okay, that was how to add it manually. Now let me show you how to add reference with identifier. This is the icon of magic wand. This is how to add with identifier. Here, when you click here, it will show you enter one or more ISBN, DOIES. This is called identifier, as I will show you. Then you add the number and you will get the details here. The one you entered previously manually, now it automatically will appear here. Let me show you. So before we proceed, let me show you that ISBN means International Standard Book Number. So when you are using the source as a book like this, as I showed you previously, this is a book, this is like a book, or this is a journal. Every one of them have different icon. DOI means Digital Object Identifier. PMID means PubMed Identifier. So if you will find the number or the identifier in the either in the book or in the website you share you are using, or in PubMed and so on. So let me show how to do that.
What about adding references via an identifier? Zotero can read different types of identifiers and search for relevant information online. Going back to my example of the review article, I can see that this has a PubMed identifier code here. So if I copy this, then if I select the Add Item by Identifier option inside of Zotero, I can then paste the code in and then press Enter on my keyboard. And as you can see, Zotero has found this review article online and downloaded all of the information related to it. In fact, Zotero has entered a lot more information than I did manually, and it was a lot quicker than me. So, if available, I always advise adding references this way rather than manually. Another useful thing Zotero does is download attachments if they are available. Since this review article was open access, Zotero has automatically downloaded the PDF of this manuscript. And I know this because there is a blue dot in the attachment column. Also, if I click the arrow next to the entry in the list, you can see the full text PDF. And if you double click on this, the file will then open. Another thing that Zotero commonly adds for PubMed entries is the link to the reference. So if you click on this, the exact web page will open in your browser. What about adding references via an identifier? Zotero can read.
Okay, now the third method is adding reference using Zotero connector. As I told you, when you download Zotero connector, there is icon here will appear. While you are reading a journal, for example, you can highlight text and save it to Zotero, and automatically it will go there. And when you go there, you will find the reference, and everything is have been done to you. So let me show in the video.
And now moving on to the final main way of getting references into the Zotero platform. And that's by using the Zotero connector plugin that we installed earlier. So here I have the same review article open again on the PubMed website. To save this entry to Zotero, you simply find the connector options on your browser. In Firefox, this is in the top right corner. The button should say Save to Zotero. And if you click on this and then go back into the Zotero standalone program, you will see the entry has been added. And now I have 3 entries of the same reference. So this is a great time to show you the duplicate items area. If you click on the duplicate items option to the left, you will see all of the references that appear more than once in your library. If you select the duplicate item, Zotero will then ask you to choose the version of the item you want to keep as the master item. I recommend selecting the entry that has the most information for that reference. Then select the Merge button at the top. The item will then be removed from the duplicate items page, and you should then only see a single entry for that reference. And now moving on to the final main.
Okay, now let us see how to organize your reference using Zotero. We have collection, folders. As I told you previously, collection, same meaning as folders. We will find it in the first column, the right one. And we have tags, and we have related reference, and we can add notes to organize the reference. This is the first one, the collection. In the collection, you place your reference in one place. So, for example, here, when you click here on the file or here on my library, you can create new collection or new sub-collection. Those are the collection like alcohol consumption, diabetes mellitus, and effect on stress and genetic, medical genetics. There are different research you are working on. In each one, you can create a sub-collection. For example, for colorectal cancer, you can have sub-collection testing colorectal cancer. When you have reference here, you just take the reference and put it on the corresponding topic. Like you have different reference for alcohol consumption. Just take from here and put here. You will save them on your library. And wherever you are, you can use them in your research. Like if you are in the workplace or you are traveling or something, you can just open your Zotero account and find your library wherever you go, and you can work on your research. Okay, so in this site also we have my publication. This contains all the publication you did before. You can add here your own publication. We have duplicate item also. Duplicate items. Any of the same references that are found more than once will go here to the duplicate item. Unfiled items. Any reference in your library that is not placed inside a collection will go here to the unfiled. And here, if you want to delete something, it will go to the trash bin. Okay, let me show you the collections, how to make it.
Collections are basically folders where you can add specific references into. And as you can see, I've added a few more references to my library. If you want to add a new collection, you simply click on the New Collection button at the top. Then give your collection a name. It's then a case of going to your library and dragging the desired references into your collection. And note that references can be dragged into multiple collections. If you want to see the list of references in your library that are not yet in a collection, then simply go to your Unfiled Items area. Collections can also contain collections inside of them, known as sub-collections. And you can also click and drag on collections to create sub-collections yourself. Another Collections are basically folders.
Another thing we use is the tags. Let me show how to use tags on the YouTube.
To add tags to a reference, you simply select it in your library, then on the right go to the Tags tab. Then click on the Add button to create the tag. I'll add the tag Cancer to this reference. Once added, tags will then appear in the bottom left of your screen. And if you select a tag, you will see all of the references that have that tag associated with it. You can also change the tag color and position by right-clicking on it and selecting Assign Color. The search bar at the bottom will also let you search the tags. It's also worth noting that when you import references into Zotero, such as via the Zotero connector, there may be some automatic tags added along with it. If you would prefer to remove these and just have those tags that you've created yourself, then select the Actions button and click on the Delete Automatic Tags in this library.
Okay, another thing, related reference for organization also. We can put the related reference together.
Is to add related references. If you select a reference, you can then go to the Related tab. Here you can link references together. So maybe they are based on the same experiment or written by the same lab. To add a related reference, you click on the Add button and find the related reference in your library. Then click OK. The related reference will then be listed, and then you can click on it to switch to it. A final thing.
Okay, that's it. That is going next. Now let me show you how to use make citation using Zotero. I will show you how to add the citation into library and citing source in Google Documents, citing source in Word, and how to choose your citation style also. So here, we have, as I said before, when you are reading a journal or something, you have here this icon change from a book to an article page or other icon as you look at different citation. Okay, just this is a type of how does it looks here in Chrome and here in Firefox. Because when you're reading an article, you just highlight what you want to cite and just click here and it will go to your Zotero account. For example, here we have the icon of Zotero connector, which will connect you to the account. Here, Zotero detect more than one reference on the page. Click the folder icon to add multiple citations to your library. Once this icon appears, it indicates that Zotero is adding the item to your library. Okay, let us see the video. Okay. We have citing source in Google Document. The same powerful functionality that Zotero has long offered for traditional word process. Now we have Zotero functioning in Google Documents also. It's also available for the Google Document. So Zotero connector, this one. Add the Zotero menu to Google Document interface. Yeah, here you can add or edit citation, add or edit bibliography. This is in your Google in the Google Documents. Here the same. It also add toolbar button for one-click citing. The same as I said before. For citation, just click one time.
For installing Zotero, you should.
This is a tutorial for the Word. The previous one in the Google document, and this one for the Word, how it works in the Word.
See a Zotero tab in your Word software. If you don't see this, you can try reinstalling the Word add-in. And to do this in the Zotero software, you go to Edit, Preferences. Then select the Cite button at the top and go to the Word Processors tab. You should then see the option to reinstall the Microsoft Word add-in. Try selecting this and then restarting the software. Back in Word, if you go to the Zotero tab, you should see a set of options like this. To add a citation from your Zotero library, click on an area in your Word document where you want to add the citation. Then click the Add/Edit Citation option from the Zotero tab. For your first citation, the Document Preferences window will open. Here you can select a citation style to use. Zotero comes with various styles to use, but you can also import your own, which I'll show you later on in this guide. For this example, I will select the APA style and click OK. Now a search bar should be visible. Here you can type in the reference you are looking for. I find it easier to enter the author name, but you can also enter the reference name too. Once you find the correct entry, select it to add the citation. If you'd like to add more citations, you can continue to do so, or simply press the Enter button to add what you have. As you can see, the citation now appears. And if you want to edit the citation, for example, to add more references to it, then select it, and then again go to Add/Edit Citation. Now I've added my citation, I'll now create my bibliography or reference list. To do this, you simply select the area in your document where you want the list to be added. Then click on the Add/Edit Bibliography button. Now you can see that the list has been added. From this point on, if you add any additional citations, they should automatically be added to your bibliography. If they are not, you can simply click on the Refresh button to add them. If you'd prefer that the references are not automatically added to your bibliography, then you can adjust the settings by going to the Document Preferences option. Then uncheck the option to automatically.
Okay.
Installing Zotero, you should see a Zotero tab in your Word software.
So that was the citation. Now let's see how to create bibliography or reference list. Yeah, in citation, we just click here, add or edit citation. To add citation, you just click on add and the paragraph will appear here. Then if you want to edit it, you just again click on edit citation, and the same for bibliography. You click here on add or edit bibliography, and it will automatically, for the first paragraph, you can do it. After that, it will automatically keep adding citation. If you want to add it manually, you can choose not to do that automatically and put it manually. Let me show you in the video.
I'll now create my bibliography or reference list. To do this, you simply select the area in your document where you want the list to be added. Then click on the Add/Edit Bibliography button. Now you can see that the list has been added. From this point on, if you add any additional citations, they should automatically be added to your bibliography. If they are not, you can simply click on the Refresh button to add them. If you'd prefer that the references are not automatically added to your bibliography, then you can adjust the settings by going to the Document Preferences option. Then uncheck the option to automatically update the citations. And it's also worth noting here that you can change the citation style from this window too. A final thing to note in Word is that all Zotero citations and the bibliography are linked to your library, and this is so it can be updated. If you'd prefer to remove these links, you can select the Unlink Citations button here. Doing so will mean all of the citations and the bibliography will be converted to standard text. So that.
Okay, this brings us to the.
I'll now create my bibliography.
Sorry. This brings us to the end of my presentation. Okay, I hope you learned something new today. You can use it in your research. It is free, it is powerful, it is easy to use. Also, you can automatically organize your data. If you want to learn more, this is some sources. I use them. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Thank you so much, Dr. Hajer, for the amazing and well-illustrated presentation. So
Welcome.
anyone has any question for Dr. Hajer? So at this point, we will move on to the next topic, which is how to prepare for a webinar presented by Dr. Sahar. Please share your screen, Dr. Sahar.
Yes, assalamu alaikum everyone. Hope you can hear me well.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I will start right away. Can you see my slides?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, so first, how to prepare for a webinar. I will present to you today. My name is Sahar Anwar Ahmed. And so at first, we want to know what is a webinar is. So the word webinar is a contraction of the word web and seminar. So which exactly what it means, it can be a presentation, it can be a lecture or workshop, usually streamed over the internet. Typically, webinar consists of one or more expert. So the speaker can sometimes be more than one, usually educating their audience about a certain topic. The presentation is usually supported by multimedia material, and this is usually followed by question and answer session. So the thing about webinar, it's a live interactive session, so that sets it apart from online video. So it's not yet like you just sit in there and watch an online video. You actually can interact, like you can say your opinion or ask your question. So that's what's basically a webinar is. So you can see multiple people attending and interacting at the same time. So the first thing you want to do when you prepare for a webinar, you want to choose a topic for your webinar, and you want to be as specific as you can. So choose a highly specific content idea that you can speak about in a wide range of details, and will also make it easier for you to focus on the specific topic and minimize any distraction and going out of your topic. The other thing, it's important to make it within your field. So you should be knowledgeable enough about your topic and to study all aspect of it, and be ready to cover most of its aspect. So if you set the topic that you're not very familiar with, you can, or you should consider inviting a guest speaker who is an expert. So sometimes we can see a webinar prepared by someone, but he invites someone to speak more about it as an expert. So how to choose the right speaker? So webinar need to be hosted by skilled, knowledgeable expert in their field. So whether you decide to present the webinar yourself or choose someone else, you have to make sure that whomever you choose knows the topic inside and out, and he's very comfortable talking on camera, and is also ready to answer the expected and unexpected question, because as we said, it's an interactive session and people will ask questions, will post their opinions, so it's very important to be ready. So the speaker usually starts with educating the audience about the topic, which usually supported by a deck of slide or other multimedia material, and also try to keep the audience engaged by using polls and question and answers, so the audience are still like keeping up with you, especially in the case of a single speaker. So when you're expecting a bigger audience, sometimes the webinar is like focus on an audience that is big, so you can create a team actually, which you can benefit from, a joint effort between, you can have an organizer, a host, a presenter, a technical assistant, so you have many people involving in your webinar. So this is the basic idea of the webinar. This is like when you want to promote for it. So you have the speaker's name, the speaker like photos, so people can know who is gonna speak. You're also gonna have the exact date of which time the webinar is gonna happen, the date and the timing, and what is gonna be about. So this is like a typical presentation, like a typical promotion of your webinar. So then you have to choose a format for your webinar. It can be in an interview type of format. If you have the interview format works, It works particularly well when you are not an expert on the topic. So when you have a guest, as we said before, you can host the webinar and ask questions to a guest expert. This type of webinar also encourages the audience to ask their own question, which can make the event more engaging. You can send your guest expert your question in advance so they can properly prepare their answers before the webinar. So the interview usually have some guest expert in there. There's also a panel discussion. A panel discussion involves at least 2 expert speakers and a moderator. This is a great webinar format that can get very dynamic and is usually best option if you want to highlight different and opposing opinion or perspective. So if you have a topic that people would have different opinion about, this is like a good thing to put a format for that, the panel discussion. So your webinar for platform should enable multiple speakers, or your physical studio should be large enough to accommodate all speakers with the separate microphone and proper lighting. So if you're inviting everyone to your studio, you want to be sure everything is properly prepared. The third thing, you can do a product demo. Sometimes the webinar is like promoting for some product you have. So promoting your product is also a great opportunity to create a webinar, but try not to turn your webinar into a selling advertisement. So you don't want it to be so like an advertisement, but mainly you want people to benefit from that. So your audience have to benefit from your webinar, for example, teach them something new, show them how they can improve their life through your product. Make sure to show your product on camera or to use a screen sharing if your product is a software application. So whenever you promote for something, you need to benefit the audience. Last thing is question and answers. So all the previous webinar format should include question and answer portion. However, you can also make your whole webinar in a question and answer format. So it can start from the beginning. So you wait for audience to ask questions and you just answer them, in which your audience asks questions via your webinar software or via social media, which you can then pick, read, and answer in real time. Okay, so while preparing for your webinar, there's questions to keep in mind. So you have to ask yourself these questions and answer it to ensure high quality webinar. So is it engaging? Is your audience is going to be engaged, entertained by your webinar? Is it clear and simple? So you have one main idea per slide, so everyone can focus and not be distracted. Is it of any use to my audience? Is it beneficial for them? And will it get me closer to my objectives? Okay, so if your webinar is answering these questions, you are in the right path. Then you have to come to create an engaging slide deck. So long PowerPoint slides can be dull, boring, and hard to keep up, especially when very long. So your deck should strengthen and emphasize the points you intend to make in your webinar. So try to focus and get to the point. Back up your presentation with data in different ways. You can use numbers, pictures, and graphs to illustrate your points. You can also break your presentation with a video or a live poll or quiz to keep your audience engaged and entertained. The last thing you have to do is plan a time of interaction with your attendees during your presentation. So you have to keep your mind with your time. So you keep time for your presentation and then for engaging with your audience. So this is also to choose a format. So the best webinar solution offers a few must-have features. So first, you want to have a presentation tool such as an interactive whiteboard, note sharing, chat room, screen sharing. So you want something that you can interact with your audience with. Branding features. So to make your webinar space instantly recognizable for your audience with logos, color images, for example. That's the idea of branding features, like you have your own brand. The other thing you need in and in browser access to your webinar, so by a dedicated URL. No, you don't want to need an installation or download requirement, so you need a direct URL. Also, you need a persistent webinar user interface, so meaning you can access it in advance or prepare the space and you can come back later. For example, if you host a webinar series, so you want a user interface, a point that everyone can access even in advance of your webinar. Cloud recording, so you can edit your webinar after the event, so you want to keep it recorded. The last thing is webinar analytics, so enabling you to assess and improve on your webinar performance. So do an analytics or analyze your work so you can improve it in the future. Okay, so how to promote your webinar? So first thing, you want to create a webinar invitation pop-up. So that's the thing that how you can invite people to your webinar. So with the webinar, what you want to see in the invitation pop-up is the webinar title, the speakers, the time and date, and the countdown to create urgency. So all of these can be seen in your invitation. And then take into account that only about 36% of registration will be attending your webinar. So not everyone will be, if they registered, it doesn't make sure they will attend. And that about 35% of your attendees were registered in the week of your webinar and 29% of them were registered on the day of your webinar. So you might want to intensify your promotion on those last days and even hours before your event. So you want to make sure that the promotion is going on, especially the last few days or last few hours. Third thing, you want to pick the right date and time. So there's science in here. So according to research, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, so middays week, are the best days to schedule a webinar, with 11 a.m. being the optimal time. So Tuesday are the best day to promote your webinar as well. So try to schedule your webinar according to your audience time zone and in the best days and the best time of the day. Okay, so the last thing, you want to build a landing page for registration. So your emails, banners, social posts, and other promotional effort will link to this page. So you want a page rather than your webinar, so everyone can go back to your page. Make your landing page engaging and visually attractive. Okay, so now how to promote for your webinar. So you want to promote it through social media and ads. Social media is an excellent way to promote your webinar online. Create a hashtag so people can talk about your webinar. Let your audience work for you. So how? By posting about the hashtag themselves. Post regularly about your upcoming webinar on your social channels to start 2 weeks before your event. So that's the optimum time that you start to promote for your webinar. So about 2 weeks before the webinar. You should also set up an event page on Facebook or LinkedIn, sending followers to your landing page. Finally, you can run paid ads as well on social platforms to reach potential audience beyond your followers. So if you need more audience, you can do the paid ads. So the other thing, you can always promote through emails. So emails has been named as the most effective channel to promote for webinar. So if you have an email database, make sure to send your contact an invitation email. Make it short, simple, and easy to sign up. We recommend sending an initial email 2 weeks before the event and then a reminder a day or two before. So this is how you promote for your webinar, through social media, ads, or through email. Okay, then whenever your webinar is ready, you want to test your webinar. So do at least one test several days before the live event to make sure that everything is working properly. Okay, so the checklist for your test or run. So you want to make sure, are your guest or speaker on standby and ready to join? Check their sound levels. Is your platform ready? Did you upload all your presentation material? Do you know where all your features are and how to use them? All open a test webinar and have your tech assistant join in to test the platform if you have an assistant. So check your batteries, your lights, your sound, prepare backup, ready to go backup computer, extra batteries, cables, and lights. Do you have your notes ready? Practice your script. So you need to be ready for your webinar. Don't wait till the day of the webinar. The last thing is perform a speed test for your internet connection to make sure everything is going properly. Now go for it. Host your webinar. So now host or present your webinar. Don't forget to record your webinar. You want it to be recorded. Put your audience front and center at all times. Keep an eye on the clock. So make sure you're not exceeding time or like before time, and have fun with it. So the follow-up. So send your audience a follow-up email after the webinar, after the day or two. Briefly repeat what they got from attending the webinar. So you want to basically say the same thing you have said in the webinar, and also thank them for attending. If you had a small audience, you could make this email personal. This is also your opportunity to shine light towards any upcoming webinar. If you have anything upcoming, you can also tell your audience about it now. You can also be offering them an exclusive discount. You can invite your audience to fill out survey. It will help you assess the performance of your webinar and improve on it for future events. Okay, so the last thing you want to do is assess, analyze, and improve. A survey will help you understand how the webinar was received by your audience. The webinar platform should be able to provide you with metrics such as attendance, who attended that, the retention, and top sources of registration. So where the people actually registered from. And your webinar chat feeds also serves an excellent source of information on how you perform. And then analyze to assess whether your webinar was a successful one. Okay, so the important thing is to analyze everything. It will prove invaluable for your future events to bring about better performance and collect and convert an even higher number of leads. So this is the points to take home. This is the last thing you want to remember preparing your webinar. So recommendation to do every single time to ensure things goes as smoothly as possible. Always do a test, no matter what. Even if your speaker don't want to, just do it. You have to before you do it. Don't rely on the internet. Be sure to call in from a landline, and instead of using the microphone in your computer, you can also use a specific microphone here, like an external one. Use poll question to engage your audience. Start promoting at least 7 days in advance. Put presenter bios on your registration page. So the presenter picture, their bios and everything. So because it adds credibility, and headshots are nice too. The last thing is be early and ready and just have fun with it. Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you so much.
Do you have any questions?
Excellent presentation. Thank you so much.
Okay, I can hear you.
I'd like to thank all the.
Thank you so much for all the presenters. You all did great job today. For the attendees, if you have any question or any comments, please feel free
You're
to ask.
welcome, guys.
Now I'm going to leave the stage for Dr. Nadir.
I'd like to thank all the presenters for today. Thank you so much, Steve, our great presentation. Thank you for your time and effort and excellent work. Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. So I'll go very quickly over another test. Basically, what we need to know about another test is it's similar to the t-test, but the difference is when we compare groups, more than two groups. So in t-test, we have two groups that we want to compare. Sometimes it's only one group, but we want to compare the group in two times or two time periods. Like, for example, I can take you as a sample, all the audience from today. So before this meeting, we can ask you questions, get all the information, and then attend the meeting. And after the meeting, we will ask you another question and see if there is difference between before and after, or pre and post. So it's the same group, but we take 2 points or 2 time points and see if there is a difference. Or we compare group A with group B, patients on new medication and patient on placebo, something like that. In another test, we will be talking about 3 groups or maybe more. So we will use one way, another test, and there are different ways. So there are 2 ways, and so let's focus only on this for now. So it's the analysis of variance, and it's to, as I said, to compare 3 groups or more of population or more. Basically, you want to see if there is a difference between the group, and that will remove the null hypothesis. So the null hypothesis, basically, you are saying that the 2 groups in t-test are similar. If they are not similar, then you reject the null test hypothesis, and that means there is a difference, and see if that difference is significant according to the statistical point, the p value. In another test, we're gonna do the same about 3 different groups. I'm gonna change the slide now. Can I show you what I mean? So if, for example, I'm talking about a class of students, we have students in the classroom. Some of them might be at the front desk or front row, and some in the middle, some at the end of the classroom. So our hypothesis will say first group are either professional or good score or whatever theory we will have when compared to the second row or the third row. So we can test this hypothesis, and the test will be like the null hypothesis is that there is no difference between group A, B, or C, or the first row, second row, or third row. So there are no differences. More or less, they are equal. Whatever, let's say, test results or attendance or whatever thing that you want to see if there is a difference between the group. So I'm gonna go back to the null hypothesis or another test. So we will go over how we can do that between the 3 groups. Look, you can do it for more than 3 groups. To do that, you can use SPSS, one tool that we can use, or we can use different tools. Some of them might be simple, like Google Slides or Excel. I'm gonna show you some data. But when we want to use the one way ANOVA, there are certain conditions that we need to meet. One of them is the sample is randomly selected, and the variance of each sample are assumed to be equal, and residual are normally distributed. We can talk about this on the method too. But the idea is that no hypothesis between the three groups, that means there is no difference, or group 1, group 2, group 3 are more or less equal. And it can increase the groups if you have more than 3 groups. The alternative is that there is a difference, and you have to have one of the groups different than the other. There could be all the groups are different, but not necessary. As long as you have one group different than the other, that means you have a difference. And then you look at the p value, if it's significant or not. So we talked about this example. So the instructor noted that further students away from him, more likely they will miss classes attendance, or they will use an instant messenger to their phones, or they are not paying attention. And this will result in low scores, for example, in the exam. So they will do worse in the exam. This is what that teacher noted, for example. So this is the hypothesis, how we can put it in action. So we'll say group A, group B, group C, or in this example, the front line row, the middle, and the back row. So in this example, we have, let's say, 20-something students. There are different groups. I'm gonna stop here. Any questions? No questions, so I'm gonna assume that you are following me or you are asleep. So let's see if I just copy paste the information from the slide. So here's the information. So I'm gonna just make it 10. So I have row 1 or a middle row, step row. This is the data for students. This course for each student. So I counted the first row. There are 7 students. Middle row they have 9 students, and last row they have 8 students. So we can calculate what's the mean, and to do that we need to add all these. So the sum for the first row will be 530, the sum for the middle row, and the sum for the total for the third row. If we divide the sum by the number for each row, we'll get the standard deviation or the mean for each row. So far, it's a simple things that we can do. So we can get this information and calculate that in a table. So the sample size for each row, the mean for each row, and then we can calculate the standard deviation for each row and the variance for each row. So this can be done by using tools like SPSS or Google or Excel sheet. So when we want to go further, we can get what we call the sum of the squares. And to do that, we can do the difference in the mean between either the group themselves or within the group. So we will talk about this in a little bit later. But we will do the same with the total sum of the squares, and then we'll go to see if there are differences between these sums. And we want to see if these means are identical or no. So are all the sample means identical? In this case, no. So there are some variation between the groups. And this is called the group variation. And sometimes the variation within the group itself. So this is called within the group variation. So we can calculate these two variances or these two variations. There are two sources for variation, as we mentioned, the group or within the group. So come back to the tabulation. So we will calculate the sum of the means or sum of the standard deviation of the groups. So we will see if there is a difference between one group and another, and we'll put it here. And then we'll do the same, but within the group. So there is an equation that means we can use some additional. We'll treat it the same way we did with the first group or the first step where we.
I'm sorry, Dr. Nader. I'm not sure if you are sharing your screen because you can't see it.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So we will use this equation, and the equation basically it's similar to what we were doing in the sample, the scores. So we calculated the scores for each student, and then we added all the scores and divided by the number of students in each row. So we will do the same, but instead of the score of each student, we will use the standard deviation for the group in that sense. And then we will divide this by the number of groups. So group 1, and there are 7 students, and we will get the square of or the sum of that total mean for all of them. So the mean for the group was 75, but the mean for all as a big square, we will multiply by the number of students. We'll do the same with the second row and the last row, the number of students by the mean, and we'll divide the total by the number total number of students. So it's going to be 1562 over 24, which comes to 65, something like that. And this is the group. We can do the same, but within the group. So the variation will be something like that. So it will calculate the variation in the group or between the group. So it's kind of how the calculation. So if you don't have to go into depth of the equation, you just give the sample with the values inside, the scores of these students, for example, and the number of groups, group 1, group 2, group 3, and then the program will get you the another test results. But I want you to understand the steps. So the first step, it will calculate the standard deviation for each group 1, group 2, group 3. And then further, we will do the standard deviation multiplied by each group so that we can get the sum of the standard deviation. And then we calculate that between the groups and within each group. So finally, you will get something like that, the standard deviation between the group and within the group, and then the total. This is the sum for that. Then the next step is you want to do something simple, which is the degree of freedom, the DF. The degree of freedom is basically the total minus 1. So what the degree of freedom for the groups? So between the group, we have 3 groups. So if we have 3, we subtract 1. So the degree of freedom for this difference between the group is 2, and the degree of freedom between each within the group, each group within the group is going to be the total number minus 1. So total number was 22, minus 1 is 21. So this is the degree of freedom. And then this table will be created when you run the programs like in SPSS or other tools. You ask for the one way another test, you give the groups and the number of groups, it will fill out this degree of freedom. If that makes sense so far. So then to calculate further, we will get the variance of this group. To do that, we will divide by the degree of freedom. So in this case, we will get all the total divided by the degree of freedom. So if you go back, it's going to be this number divided by the degree of freedom, and then this number divided by the degree of freedom here. And the result will be here. So 951 or 161. This is if the program will display the table for you. You just understand what the DF means. That means the degree of freedom of 3 groups is 2, and then within the groups, the degree of freedom for all these 3 groups and the individual in the groups is the total minus 1, so 22 minus 1. So finally, it will give you an F value and then a P value. So our P value will be the figure or the number that we will compare to our significance level. So if you say my significance level is 0.5, then 0.15, you look at the P value. If the P value is less than that, then we will reject the null hypothesis. This is how you understand the basics of the ANOVA test. In a nutshell, it's similar to the t-test. You compare 2 groups in t-test. In ANOVA test, you compare 3 or more. You will do the same steps like the t-test, but now you want to look at the big picture. You want to look at the difference between the group 1, group 2, group 3, if there is a difference between them, and then within each group, if there is a difference between each group, and then you will just calculate and get the P value. If it's less than 0.05, that means it's significant, then means you reject the null hypothesis. I hope that will be helpful when you do your analysis, when you have some data to compare in the future. Thank you. Any questions? If there is no question, we'll go to the next agenda. I have some announcement and can I just share with you this? I got an email from the NAMA, the National Arab American Medical Association. They have a conference that will be in Cairo in Egypt in December, sometime end of December, and beginning of the year 2024. So they are asking for abstract. So, and I assume it's oral talk or could be an abstract like a poster presentation. So if anyone of you is interested, I will share with you the information. Please let me know. And this is their website, nama.com. And you can go there, call for abstract. It has some more information about submit your abstract, and these are the areas where they want you to focus on the primary care and specialty, wellness, medical education, innovation, and maternal and child health. So if you are interested in writing a poster or writing an abstract submitted to them, you can go to the website naana.com and see the call for abstract. I'm not sure what's the deadline, so you can look at the website and see. So I encourage you to post it. If you are interested, I think you can contact some of the fellows who are in Egypt, so that if the abstract is accepted, at least one person will be in Egypt that can attend the meeting there. Could be more than one, but due to the expense of the traveling, maybe the team for that project can identify some of the fellows in Egypt so that they can participate in the project, and then if it's accepted, they can present the project. Thank you. Any updates about your projects, guys? Any questions or any ideas? So if there is no more questions or ideas, we can just plan for next week, inshallah. And I'd like to thank you so much, Dr. Amel, and your team, all the presenters from today. Thank you all who attended today, and those who will watch the recording later. Thank you, and I wish you good luck. Please let me know if I can be of any help. Shoot me an email, contact me, text, call, and I'll be happy to help. I wish you all the best. Assalamu alaikum. Good night and good evening, wherever you are. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Dr. Nadir.
Thank you, Dr. Nadir.
Thank you, Dr. Nadir.
Thank you, Dr. Nadir. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Dr. Nadir.
Dr. Nader, sorry, I have a question.
Yes.
So I'm asking about my chances if I applied for the match this year without a US clinical experience, because I cannot travel this year, but I might be able to travel the next year because of I have a full-time job here and I cannot take a leave of job at this time. I have high scores like 260, 217, step 2 CK, but I'm not sure. I'm still not confident about that. So should I take the risk and apply, or just delay it to the next match so I can do step 3 and US clinical experience?
I think if you are in this situation, I think you can wait and do the clinical experience. When did you graduate?
I graduated in 2017, about 6 years ago. So I know that I passed that 5 years.
It's already that criteria. So that was my concern, if it's within or so if that doesn't make a difference, then I think you can just wait 1 more year. But in this year, I think you can try to build your connection you want to build your CV as much as you can. You want to collect information about each program that you are interested in, and see if you can create some connections with these programs, residents, fellows, or whatever attendings maybe in these programs. You want to just create some sort of channel beside the actual official application for the next cycle. In the meantime, prepare for step 3, and when you get a chance after the year, you can try to come to the US and spend some time. See who did pediatric. I know you are interested in pediatric, right?
No, internal medicine.
Internal medicine. So if you are interested in internal medicine, who did, I know that in Michigan, they have some, like in Flint, they offer some internship or some sort of clinical experience. So you try to get more information about these opportunities and put them in order so that when you come, you will be efficient in your time. So you'll spend, let's say, 2 weeks in Flint or 2 weeks in another place, 2 weeks. So within 1 month or 2, you will have your clinical experience. Shouldn't be separate from one place, but different places. And hopefully you will be ready for that.
Thank you so much. Feeling more comfortable now. I was very anxious about this. I wasn't able to take a decision, but I think this is a wise decision, and I'm just going to wait and improve my CV.
Yeah,
thank you so much, Dr. Nader.
That's a good decision. You're welcome. Thanks. How's your applications, the mobile app?
So we done about 50% of the vaccination, of the adult vaccination app. So we are recording our meeting through Skype. So if everyone wants to benefit from this and watch our work, that would be, we are more than happy to share it with others. And about maybe 10%. Okay.
Can you share with me that so that I can put it in the progressive? Thank you.
Yes, of course. But how can I share it to you? Via email or?
So it's recorded, right?
Yes, it's about 2 hours long.
But you have is it online or because it has files?
As file.
Okay. So what I do is I can upload it or can upload them to the YouTube, and then you can create the level of privacy to personal link, or you can identify that if you don't want it public. If you want it public, that's fine, and then you can share the link. So there is a way. So if you go to studio.youtube.com with your Google account, you can upload your recorded files.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much.
So you are progressing with the project so far. Is that correct?
The application? Yeah, we are doing about 50% of vaccination. In the vaccination app, we're progressing more than the blood pressure. Blood pressure, we are a little bit slow, but we're doing well as well. Like all the teams are great. They are willing to participate.
Okay. What platform you're using for the blood pressure? Is it the same for?
We use Codular for both.
Codular.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Good. Thank you for that.
You're welcome, Dr. Nader. Thanks.
You're welcome. Let me know if I can be of any help.
Thank you, of course. Thank you so much.
No problem. Anyone else in the group here? Questions? If not, then thank you. Have a wonderful day, night. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Nader.
Thank you.